Hey guys, what's up? J-Dubs here to give you a deck tech and tournament report for the AnimEvo Weiss event. I placed 16th in the event, and there's a total of about 129 players. Uh, start out, I was playing Grisaia. Have 4 anti-heal. When it comes reverse, pay 1 into memory. And then if your opponent heals, they either have to discard a card or take a damage. It's probably the best anti-heal deck in the game right now, since the other ones are usually limited. And while it's not the best when you only have one copy, when you get 2 or more, it becomes very, very taxing to the point your opponents usually can't afford to pay the cost. Ran 4 of the JC Shinobu. When it comes to play, you mill 2. If there's a climax, you can choose a character to get 50 power. And then when one of your other characters is front attacked, you can pay 1, send this to memory, and return that character to hand. This helps save like your level 1 combo, helps bounce back like if you need to early play Masashi. And it's just sending more things in memory so you can have like that memory compression. So just a really good card in general. Pay 1 plus 1 fundamentally. So 3 of this Bonder for the 1-1 feeding event. It's just come and play, discard a card to salvage the event. Works as both hand filter to get like excess climaxes and stuff out of my hand, and just helps keep the deck consistent, being able to find the event that finds your other pieces. So just a solid card overall. And then a bunch of like utility cards. One of Search Brainstormer with come and play, look at top or top or bottom. So the turn you play it can function as a 5-card brainstorm. Generally use the red brainstorm for most of the game because most of our cards tend to be in our waiting room, but this is just in case I do need to search or if I just need to mill. 1 copy of this. It has 3 abilities. You can pay 1 to kill a level 0 in your opponent's front row. I've had to use that effect multiple times this tournament. You can rest it to choose a character, give it 500 power times its level. So if you need to get that little extra oomph, and you can pay 1 second to look at the top 4, choose a character added to hand. I primarily run this as like a modular mill, just so I can get like really good refresh numbers, or try to get my deck down to 1 card left in the deck, so make sure my climax goes back to the waiting room with just so I can have like good mills. You can fire off the red 1-0 event pretty easily. So play 1 copy of the climax swapper, and then when it comes into play, you can look at top 2, rearrange. So pay 1 digital climax, salvage climax, and then rearrange. I think I only used the climax swap once, but the look at top 2, rearrange was very vital to checking my triggers to make sure that my first 2 attacks were going to trigger, and that became very useful the entire event. I used it like 5-6 times for that effect. And this is a come and play digital climax to salvage, another discard outlet, and then come and play look at top or waiting room. So another form of mill to hit those very specific cards in waiting room to make sure I have like a decent refresh. Most of the mill in this deck mills 4 or 2, so the modular look at the 4, and the other level 0, and this helps me get to the specific mills I need to hit. Then you have this Yumiko, come and play. You can ditch a card to choose a character and clock. Add a hand, put the top card at the clock, so another piece of filter and access to my clock. Something I felt I will need it because sometimes some characters that you might want end up in clock. And then also as come and play, you can choose a character in your opponent's front row and give it minus 1k power. Kill some important level 0s your opponent might have, like that have like on become reverse effects that you might want to play around. So pretty convenient card. That's it for the level 0s. At level 1, we play 4 of the Sachi climax combo, 500 favor of the character, and then when you play her climax, you can search or salvage this event, which is when you play the event, you mill 2, salvage equal to the combined total levels. So this allows you to very efficiently just kind of loop your climax combo back and forth. Combos with the gate or salvage gate, and often happens is you'll play 2, 3 of this, play it, get 3, 2, 3 of the events. You know, your opponent might kill them, you might bounce one back. You have all your events in hand. On your following turn, you play the events, pick these back up, combo again. Very, very, very consistent plus combo. I think it's has one of the highest floors for level 1 plus combo. Well, it doesn't have like possibly the highest ceiling. Its floor is so high that I think it's one of the best plusing tournament combos. Said for the event that goes with it, mill 2, salvage equal to combine to the levels. Really good for picking up all those utility zeros, one-ofs that I play. Really helps you kind of force your refresh whenever you want to. Like after you play the combo, you're basically, once you hit your first refresh, you can use these to basically hit refresh whenever you want to. You end up getting really good compression states because of that, where you just do your attacks and mill down to like a couple cards left in deck. It's really, really good for that. 3 copies of this level 1 reverser, and when you have 3 or more cards in memory, it also becomes a 2 soul 4/5. This is fundamentally what our damage pusher is, like our real early play. When instead of playing the stock for early play, you just drop these down, crash 3, you still get the soul damage, and you open up your entire board, which usually ends up being convenient because of how compressed you are. Your opponent having to make those direct attacks ends up being against their favor a significant amount of times. And I play 1 copy of this early play killer since the bottom deck. Some people choose not to play this. I play it because sometimes you get in the game states where your opponent's like running low on hand size, they're trying to stabilize over early play. Usually they can't because of the anti-heal, they can't heal with their early play, but they might try to stabilize with a 2/2. This being able to send it to bottom deck kills things like the slime early play, some of the Konosuba early plays, and they don't get to hand on them, so it's pretty convenient for that. It's also good against some standby decks. Get rid of their 2/2s if they stand by in early. They don't get to basically make their big standby plays because of that. 2 copies of this Salvage Brainstorm and 500 assist. After first refresh, it often ends up that the majority of your card selection tends to be cards in your waiting room. It's the most convenient way to find things. So once you hit certain critical mass numbers of compression, you can rely on brainstorms for plussing and never have to clock again. You'll often, like, if you triple cancel or something on a turn, brainstorm, hit like the other 2 or 3 climaxes, and then use the events to mill up down to like your last couple cards while you're still getting your pluses, and you end up hitting like basically fundamentally like infinite hand size for the rest of the game when you get to those states. So really good card. Then we run 4 copies of the feeding event. This is a you salvage a character, send it to memory, and then reveal top. If it's a level 0 character, you send this to memory, or you send that character to stock. Excuse me. This ends up, like 30-40% of the time being like a free compression, basically. Like it's ends up being compression on current deck state, and then when it doesn't get the free stock, then it's still going to be turning your stock into a memory compression for the turn and filtering your hand, setting up your level 1 combos. This card is really, really good in this type of deck, so don't really have much more to say about that. Level 2, we play 1 copy of this 2/1 2k in front to level 3 assist, and then you can pay 2 rest to bounce a character. This is primarily used for like the Albuta matchup if they have the great performance in front. I forget the Japanese term for the effect. Bodyguard. Just to bounce that, make sure you're not having to crash into that and let them get their burns. Just out to certain decks with the bounce effect. You usually don't play it, but it's there when you need it. At level 3, we have 3 of this Masashi that early plays. You have 2 of this Climax in the waiting room. You generally don't early play it, but if you like get a really huge damage lead on your opponent, like say there's late or mid level 3 and you're still level 2 and you can early play it, dropping the Masashi and just ending them is a pretty good way to win the game. Other than that, though, it's just like a finisher that we play because the top end for this deck is mainly just a burn one, so this is just like an alternative way to finish. Then we have 4 of this Yumiko. She has come and play, discard a card to heal the stock, so she gets past your own anti-heal. And then she has on attack, pay 1. You can either stock swap your opponent or burn 1. So your opponents are like very heavily stock compressed, then you can generally just ruin their lives with this, and otherwise you just go for the burn 1, just get the little pings in, which is actually pretty good in the current metagame because you have a lot of memory-based compression decks. So the low amount of damage actually tends to be better than large amounts in a lot of matchups. And then we're running 8 gates and not 8 gates, the 4 gates and the 4 pants. So pretty bulk standard Grisaia list. Some people often like to play a different level 0 lineup. They might run there's a 003k that has if it's the only character on stage, it's a 4/5 level 1, and when it becomes reversed, it goes to bottom of deck. So it tends to usually just oversize in a lot of matchups and tends to allow you to do very aggressive level 0 starts. I still play aggressive level 0 starts with this deck, and I felt like it wasn't particularly needed. So that's why I opted not to play that. On to the tournament results. Round 1, I played against Yellow Top End Slime, which was a loss. Round 2, I played the Grisaia Mirror. Round 3, Bunny Girl win. Round 2 was also a win. Round 4, I played against 8 Pants 10th Annie SAO, which was a win. Round 5, I played against a unique Standby Yuki SEO deck, which was a win. Round 6 was Saikano a win, and round 7 was Saikano a loss. For round 1, kind of had a bad start. I went from 0-4 to 1-6. The hand wasn't particularly set up, so I had to clock, unfortunately, and to push myself to 2-0. Ended up getting an okay refresh, but on my opponent's turn, I canceled one, and then drew a climax, and then triggered 2. So I was out 4 immediately after refresh, and then I took more damage, and just because of the damage deficit, wasn't able to come back. In round 2, the game actually went relatively poor for me. I only refreshed with about 5 climaxes in deck, and then end up milling those 5 outs within the top 12 cards, and wasn't able to do any more mill. But I don't think my opponent noticed, or he didn't have a climax to punish, and was only able to do like 3 damage to me, 3-4 damage, and I was able to stay at level 1 even with that deck state. So after that, I was able to just recover, stabilize, and from there was able to have a decent compression for my following refreshes and finish the game out. Round 3 was a relatively standard game. I ended up hitting like a critical mass of compression with like a 8 and 24 refresh at low level 1, and then my second refresh was like low level 2 with like a 7 and 18, or from there just kind of snowballed out of control against the Bunny Girl. My opponent wasn't able to do much. I also was able to play around him, trying to set up the bodyguard because I had salvaged the 2-1 relatively early in the game and was just holding it in case he ever tried to play the bodyguard. So, and then I had anti-heal in play, so he wasn't able to heal either. So, with his other early play, so it just hit a critical mass. He wasn't able to do much. In round 4, that was the 8 Pants 10th Annie SAO. It was a relatively standard game. My opponent kind of had a somewhat of a bad game, but he wasn't very experienced with the deck. He didn't realize that you could mill through refresh with the level 1 climax combos, so he had like a climax at the bottom card of his deck with when he went to start his attacks, and that was like the last card, so he just milled the climax, then refreshed, and then didn't continue the mill to try to find something to salvage, so he missed out on a plus. It was a tournament, so I wasn't going to tell him until after the event to let him know. He didn't seem to be very experienced with the deck. Outside of that, it was a relatively standard game, though. Round 5, I played against a standby Yuki SAO build. It was pretty unique. But my opponent triggered all of his gold bars, but never actually found a Yuki. So he just was having a bad game all around. In round 6, I played against Saikana. It was a fairly standard game at level 0, but at level 1, I high rolled the feeding events. I had 3 of them and was able to play all 3 for free. They all paid for themselves at the top check. So I ended up refreshing at late level 1 with like an 8 and 20 refresh. And from there, the compression just kind of snowballed out of control. So my opponent wasn't able to do much. And then at round 7, I didn't draw level 0 on my turn 1 play. I went first. My hand, like I'm kept my opening hand, the level 1 in the climax, and mulled 3, and then in my rest of my mulls and my draws and clock, I never saw level 0, so I had to pass turn. Then my opponent kind of smirked me. He played down 2 Rikis, another level 0, and just try attacked, and I triggered, and I just 8 damage, so I went straight to level 1. And then at level 1, I actually made a relatively bad misplay, like halfway through, or my next turn level 1, I when I got to towards the bottom of my deck, I had about 8 cards left in deck. I miscounted the number of climaxes in my room. Thought I had 5 in the waiting room, or no, I thought I had 6 in the waiting room. Only had 5 because I had 1 in hand. So what ended up happening was that I had 2 left in deck when I thought I only had 1. So I went to do the pay 1 sack like a top 4 to try to possibly mill up that climax. Get like a 7 climax refresh. They mill 4, mill clean. So I didn't get the 8 climax refresh. But what ended up happening was that the next 2 cards in my deck for the bottom 4 were climaxes that I ended up triggering. So I only refreshed 6. If I had realized that I had 2 climaxes left in deck, then I could have played the look at top 2 rearrange instead of doing the pay 1 sack to look at up the top 4, and would have just had swung out 3 attacks knowing that the top 2 were clean, and would have double canceled on the following turn and stayed at level 1 an additional turn. So I think I could have won that game if I didn't make that misplay. The game ended up snowballing out of control from there because my opponent ended up getting like 15, 60 cards in memory by the end of the game, and then I just couldn't push any damage no matter what I did. So it was that's how the event went. It was a relatively fun event. Definitely like to do something like that again. And yeah. Any afterthoughts? Let's see. I think Grisaia is a relatively good tournament pick for me. I was between this and Konosuba, but I'm not particularly feeling Konosuba in the current metagame. I feel like I have to make some more tweaks, but the matchup spread between the other top decks seems to be pretty poor, so I think for the time being, Grisaia is probably going to be my main tournament deck. This has been J-Dubs, and thanks for watching.